Hey, my friends, what's up? So I got word from Professor Stick's peanut gallery followers and his fanboys that he did a response to my first video on him. And just, goodness gracious, it was even worse than his first one. His first one was terrible, but this one was just bad. I'm sorry. Wow. I can't put into words just how bad this response was. He needs to stop while he's behind, and I think that's what he's going to do. Because he said at the end of the video that he wasn't going to respond to me again, and you're going to see exactly why he should not respond to me again. So we got to take him back to school, my friends. So I'm just going to jump right into this, and we're going to show him why he's wrong yet again. And this time we're going to do it unscripted style. Let's go.
What's up guys, so a while ago I was made aware of a video response made to me by Antonio Fletcher titled Professor Stick Gets Schooled. Now I know that this isn't the only response I've gotten another one by deflating and escaping atheism. Sorry YouTube, but I only really have the time and energy to respond to one of you, so I'm gonna pick Antonio since his video isn't an unscripted hour-long livestream and actually has some content in it. Your video was just rambling on and on without any real arguments.
I'm going to have to disagree with you there, Professor. They pretty much tore you apart. So, yeah, man, you pretty much got the business. So I would encourage any of my friends to go check out their video. It's right there. So look that up and go check it out. They absolutely tore this dude several new ones.
So yeah, Antonio is more worth my time. But don't get ahead of yourself, Antonio. That doesn't mean your video was good. And honestly, I'd rather make a video on someone else if I didn't get so many requests to respond to you.
It's gratifying to see that my video caused quite a stir amongst your minions who act like they can't use their brains.
After this, I'll get back to my regular content and maybe make a video on the flat earth.
Today, we're going to show why Professor Stick needs to ask for his money back for his PhD, because the reasoning displayed in this video and his analysis on this fine gentleman named Alistair McGrath is at best on par with grade school, not college level school.
Well, at my university, PhD programs are fully funded, so I wouldn't be paying for a PhD. Funny how you just assumed I had a PhD though. You do realize that not all professors have PhDs, right? Alright, this is just a YouTube channel name. Don't dwell too much into it.
First of all, I never said all professors had PhDs, so I don't really know why you even threw that in there. Second, I understand this is just a YouTube name for you when you say Professor Stick. I was just sort of playing along with that in jest, not actually thinking you had a PhD. I don't really know what degree you have right now or lack or whatever, but the point is I was just playing along in jest. It was really nothing more than that. And lastly, it really doesn't matter to me whether you pay for your schooling or someone else paid for your schooling. Either way, somebody wasted their money.
Anyway, I will be cutting out a bit of your video as I respond. Your video is over 26 minutes, and if I responded to everything, this video would be at least 45 minutes long. Since my videos are usually around 10 minutes in length, I will give you 10 minutes of my time.
I understand you want to keep the video short, that's not the problem. But I did notice that in this video response, you didn't address a whole lot of crucial points. And instead, most of this video, you just turned it into a huge rant fest, as people will see as we continue on.
I think one of the things I began to realize was that by its very nature, science was unable to answer a whole range of questions about meaning and purpose and identity.
I'm sorry that you're disappointed by that, but science cannot answer those things for us. Science only deals with things we can prove. It involves gathering evidence to discover the reality of the universe. Things like meaning and purpose are not things that you can empirically prove or test, because by definition those things are subjective, and science doesn't give a fuck about your feelings. I'm sorry that science wasn't enough for you, but to wander off and make shit up without any evidence or objectivity is not a good excuse to turn to theism.
Okay, now there are a number of different things I need to hit on here. To start, he's operating on the obvious assumption that science is necessarily objective, and such can be possibly further from the truth.
Well, science is objective, in theory at least. Science is a method, and this method is purely objective. Sure, there may be scientists who are subjective about certain things, but that doesn't mean the scientific method is subjective, because it isn't.
Okay, now, I'm not exactly sure what he means when he says science is objective, but he said science is objective, in theory at least. But to say that science is objective in theory means that you inherently rely on certain assumptions. Otherwise, it wouldn't be predicated as a theory. There's just certain things that you have to take on subjectivity, like, for example, just the fundamental assumption that all things which occur in the world happen solely by natural causes. That's a basic fundamental subjective assumption that's made in science. That's just the bottom line. This isn't controversial, and I actually have a Berkeley link in the description which talks about this. So there are certain things about science in regards to subjectivity that simply cannot be avoided. The fact of the matter is there are things in science which are subject to our own assumptions. For example, this is how Professor William Lane Craig put it in his debate with Peter Atkins years ago.
And finally, most remarkably, would be science itself. Science cannot be justified by the scientific method.
Fucking idiot. Science can't be justified by the scientific method? You do realize that science itself is the method, right? Craig here basically just said science can't be justified by science. Stupid as fuck. Don't quote William Lane Craig again. Surely you can come up with better arguments than him.
The problem isn't the argument Craig presented. The problem is you. And I suspect that either you're really ignorant about this to a very severe degree, I might add, or you're intentionally intellectually dishonest. I suspect it's the latter. So when you try to make it seem like it's bad for Craig to say that science can't be justified by science, it means it's circular reasoning, that science justifies science. That is circular logic, guy. But if you don't think all circular reasoning is bad, then I can use that same logic and say the Bible is justified by the Bible. I'll use biblical exegesis to justify biblical scripture itself. So I could use your same logic and say that that's not a problem for the Bible either, and using that to show scripture and the truth of it. But I bet you wouldn't buy that argument, so if you wouldn't buy that argument, then why in the world should I buy your argument about science justifies science?
Science is permeated with unprovable assumptions. For example, in the special theory of relativity, the whole theory hinges on the assumption that the speed of light is constant in a one-way direction between any 2 points A and B.
That can hardly be considered an assumption. Really, the only way that the speed of light can change speed is if it passes through a medium. The speed of light in a vacuum, C, will always be constant. We understand this. We understand the laws of the universe. This has been studied, not by you, obviously. And the speed of light is universally accepted to be constant. If it weren't, then our entire field of physics would be out the window.
I'm not sure why he brought up the universal acceptance point, but since he brought it up, let's talk about it. First of all, whether something is universally accepted or rejected does not mean that acceptance or rejection is valid. For example, Alfred Wegener came up with the idea of continental drift, but it wasn't accepted until 30 plus years after his death into mainstream science. So that's the first thing. The second thing is you simply can't observe the speed of light in all places, in all times, and all conditions in the universe. You just can't do it. You have to assume based on what you do observe that what you do observe is consistent, and you look at the consistencies and assume those consistencies accurately reflects what's in reality. But at the end of the day, that is an assumption. Many things in science have been changed that we thought was true, and additional data came on later to contradict those things. So you can't get away from assumptions, man.
Literally, our reality would be different.
But here's the problem, sir. Your point is predicated on the assumption that what Craig said doesn't represent the reality we're in now. But here's the thing. If what Craig said was false, then you would have expected a plethora of scientists to come out and contradict him around that time and correct him on that. But I know of no such thing which happened around that time to contradict what he said. So I think we are on solid grounds to say that what Craig said at the time was correct and still stands today. So we are in reality right now. It's just that you need to join us in it.
In addition, even if you were right that saying the speed of light to be constant is an assumption, that still wouldn't mean science is subjective. Subjectivity means influenced by personal feelings or emotions. This has nothing to do with that. At best, it would be considered a flawed understanding of physics, not subjective.
Here's the issue, guy. You are totally misconstruing the point here. But let's assume for the sake of argument you're right in that they know what the speed of light is. Have they ever went to the edge of the universe and tested it and saw that it moved the same way? No. So we're not talking about merely making a mistake. We're talking about deliberate assumptions. Nobody has been to all places and all times in our universe and tested the speed of light. They simply don't know how fast it moves in all places and all times. Therefore, whether you like it or not, on a certain level, they are relying upon their personal feelings. They can't get away from it. Just because it's uncomfortable to you does not mean it's not the truth. When he says science can only deal with things we can prove, he is either ignorant or deliberately ignoring when science starts from things which haven't been proven itself. And so he has no room to simply criticize the gentleman being unsatisfied about things science doesn't explain.
Yes, I do have room to criticize people when they use unreliable methods to reach outlandish conclusions, especially when they spread this bullshit around to others. The scientific method is objective, no matter how much you deny it. You claim there are assumptions, but these are not assumptions. The medication you take is based on science. The computer you're using is based on science. If you think science is subjective and therefore cannot yield reliable results, then why do you trust your doctor? Why do you expect your computer to work? Why do you expect that the text message you sent to reach the other person? These are technologies that were invented from science. Let me know the next time a piece of technology is invented by prayer.
Here's the thing. I actually think that's a legitimate question to ask. But you got to understand in asking that question, that actually opens up another can of worms. What I mean by that is the sort of question you just asked goes into particular worldviews. Like, for example, you ask me, why do I trust in things like medicine and technology while my computer works and stuff like that? The reason why I trust in those things is because God has revealed to me as a Christian that he's ordered the world in a certain way. And given his unchanging nature, he has reflected unchanging laws into the world. So when we look at the reliability of medicine and technology and things like that, those things are a reflection of his unchanging nature. These unchanging laws of nature are a reflection of who he is. So that's the reason why I trust those things. And if all possible, I would like to have a conversation with you as an atheist on how you trust those things, or rather why you trust those things. And so I'm just going to leave the video right here because I'm just going to give the same respect you gave me in your video. I could address a lot more things, but this video would go on way too long, and I actually understand that you didn't want to take all that time in addressing all that other stuff, so this is why I'm going to leave it here. Not that I can't address the rest of the stuff, but I just don't feel like pushing this video any further than it is. It's already long enough as it is. So if we can actually have a conversation about this sometime, if possible, I would love to, bro. But in the process, you got to put down this arrogant attitude of yours. You really got to put that crap away, man. You got to stop talking to people like they're just insignificant, like they're just below you because they don't believe and agree with what you do. And you have a serious, like, personal problem in that regard that you seriously need to deal with. But like I said, I'd be more than happy to have a conversation with you if you'd be so willing. But we'll just have to see what happens from here. So with that said, my friends, that's the end of this video. Thanks for watching, and as always, I appreciate your support, and please like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, take care, God bless, and peace.